Welcome back to another episode of the Caffeinated Christian Podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Ryan Willert, and I'm sitting here with Pastor Mike Wigglesworth, and we got your favorite, Bradley, the man with no last name.
We would not have a show without Bradley.
On the board. How are you guys doing today?
I'm tired today.
Yeah, I'm a little tired. I think it's the weather.
We vacationed in Florida this past week. We went to Palmetto and we went to Orlando. And
Disney?
We went to Disney, and we have a 4-year-old and an 8-month-old, for those of you who are listening. And I've never seen so many double strollers in my life. Oh, my word. So many angry parents. I saw a mom with fuzzy Minnie Mouse ears screaming at her kids, through grated teeth, like, get over here, you know.
I go to Disney at the end of April. We need to do a podcast how Disney has changed and the things I don't like about it, because I am doing a lot of the planning for my family. Mm-hmm. It's taken me months to plan everything for the 10 people that are going.
That's a lot of planning.
It's so much different from when we went last time, and some of the new rules and regulations make me just want to throw things at the wall.
What I will say, I used to knock the Lightning Pass to get onto rides. Mm-hmm. Get the Lightning Pass. Get it.
Yeah,
it's worth it.
Until you have to pay for some of the rides, the additional $20. Do you know about that?
No.
There's some rides that you can't use the Lightning Pass on unless you pay an additional $20 per ride to use it.
Oh, that's ridiculous.
I can't add anything to this conversation.
Oh, yeah.
I've never been to Disney.
I have things from the Disney Pixies. I've talked to a lot of people on how to plan this correctly through the app. We'll do a podcast when we come back about this.
We'll have to compare notes.
Yeah.
Yep.
But I came from Canada this weekend visiting Sarah's family, so I brought some coffee with us. And today we are drinking Muskoka Roastery Coffee Company out in Huntsville, Ontario, Canada.
It's quite good.
Yes. So I went to visit Sarah's family from her mother's side. They live in Canada, and we haven't. She hasn't seen them in 2 or 3 years because of the COVID situation, where they wouldn't allow people over the border. And finally, they have allowed us to do that. So we got our tests. Got everything we need to, and then headed over for a long weekend, and I finally met that part of the family. And before I left, of course, I needed to get some coffee for the podcast. So her aunt and her uncle took us to a little town called Huntsville, and it's sort of like a nicer East Aurora on steroids.
Really?
Interesting.
Yeah. So it's picture, the best way I can explain it is like you see in like a Hallmark movie where they have like a very small village town in like some alpine state. You know what I'm talking about?
For those of you who aren't from Western New York, East Aurora is a very, very beautiful part
quaint,
of
cute.
Buffalo.
Yeah, it has like brick roads and everything like that. Nice.
It's a wonderful area.
It's like an old-timey town.
Exactly what it's like.
It felt like I was in a small town in Colorado that was really nice, this Huntsville area. And I went into this Muskoka Roastery, and just they had old candies, they had chocolates, they had ice cream, one of those type of places that you'll find in one of these smaller towns.
It's very good coffee.
Yeah, it's called the Loon Call Breakfast Blend Medium. It's 100% certified, handcrafted, so I think they do it all
I'll say
in-house.
it's better than the coffee I put in my travel mug this morning. It was mixed in with soap that I didn't rinse out of the inside of my mug properly.
But you can order this online, and it does taste better than soap, and you can visit them at www.muskokaroastery.com. That's MUSKOKA roastery.com.
Cool.
It's really good.
Nice.
I got some.
You know, I don't think we ever reached the end of that little
there's
intro
more.
music.
There's more.
Yeah, it sounded like the end.
Yeah.
It goes on for another like hour or something like that.
And there's a loon on the front, and then they sell in cute little small ounce packages that does 8 cups.
Very nice.
And,
I said earlier, but I like the packaging. It looks like a chocolate bar.
yeah,
Like that's immediately what I thought it was.
100%. Mm-hmm. So it's good. Muskoka Roastery Coffee Company. Go check them out. So today we have a great episode for you, and I'm going to toss it over to Mike to do the introduction and the topic that we will be discussing today.
Yeah. So, as everyone knows, we are living in uncertain times. Everything that we knew or we thought we knew, the stability that we had become so accustomed to, has pretty much been pulled out from underneath us. You know, with COVID, with rising inflation, with everything going on in Russia and Ukraine, we live in very uncertain times. And with that, I think people are realizing how shallow and, for lack of better words, just bankrupt their worldview is.
Yeah.
Right? That they're really, to put the words of Jesus out here, that they're building their life on sinking sand. They're seeing that, their worldview, their philosophy of life, what they've been making their life about is just not stable.
Yeah.
So there are greater and greater opportunities for believers to be salt and light, as Jesus says, to the people around them. So for me as a pastor, and I know this is Ryan's heart, and I know this is something that Bradley really wants to see as well, we want to help, as a podcast, as believers, equip and mobilize believers in any way that we can to be that presence of Jesus wherever they are, namely in the place that they spend the majority of their week, which is their workplace.
Oh, I thought you were going to say bathroom. No, the workplace.
If they drank the coffee I drank this morning, it would have been the bathroom. So yeah, but oftentimes people think that, ministry is the pastor's job. Mm-hmm. And we've talked about this in the podcast before. Ministry is the pastor's job or the clergy's job. It's not the job of the average churchgoer. Mm-hmm. But if you call yourself a follower of Jesus, you are part of the priesthood of all believers, as Peter says. So we have this joy and this privilege and this opportunity to partner with God in his kingdom work and what he's doing right here, right now. And there's no better way to do that than in your workplace and interacting with people who don't know Jesus yet. So what I want to do is just talk with you guys a little bit about how do we effectively share our faith as Christians in the workplace, to put it bluntly, without being a jerk.
Yeah.
Right? So we're using this term evangelism. I don't think we should shy away from the word evangelism. I think it's a perfectly good word. It's a biblical word. But I think what we need to do is clear away some of the junk that's been attached to that word.
Yeah.
Because we've, unfortunately, evangelism, which is sharing the good news of Jesus, we've seen a lot of bad examples of people trying to share the good news.
Yeah.
So from your guys' perspective, because you both have real jobs outside of the church, unlike me.
Yeah.
And I'll get into some of the things that I do in evangelism. What are some helpful tools and resources that you found? What are some effective methods that you guys have used to share your faith to your coworkers?
Want me to go first, Bradley? Or do you want me to?
You can go first.
Yeah. So I'm all assuming that we are allowed to talk about what we believe in the workplace, because I think there's some strategies that we can talk about for workplaces that don't allow it. I think there's ways that you can try to reach your coworkers in locations that don't allow it, and it's going to be mostly with outside sort of work, but that's going to require inside your job work as well. Some of the things I do is, first of all, I guess it's a pride issue that wants to know everything. Right?
That's not surprising at all.
That's it. Yeah. I like to know everything. When I speak on a topic, a lot of people will speak on the topic after like a week of study and like they feel confident that they can go up on stage and have this conversation. I'm not like that.
I do that every week. At least that's what it feels like.
Yeah, no,
there's so much more you could learn about.
Yes,
any topic.
I'm continuously learning on specific topics, and there are a handful of topics that unless I spend at least a year plus researching, I won't even get up on stage and have a conversation about, because they're just those types of topics I don't feel comfortable doing. So the first thing I like to do is just be prepared, right? I have met a lot of Christians that told their story of their being an evangelical within their work, and some of the things they were saying, I kind of wanted to look at them and be like, were you even prepared to have that conversation?
Right.
Some of the things you were saying were deterring this person from actually knowing what the gospel is.
Right.
And you need to be more ready to have these conversations.
And when you say more ready, you're not saying you need to go out and get an MDiv.
No,
right?
No, exactly. I'm saying that if I'm going to tell you what Matthew says about the gospel, I'm going to at least have read all of Matthew.
Sure.
At the bare minimum. Because I'll know some people who I want to talk about James, and they'll quote me like Mark. It's like, first of all, not James. Like, let's get that correct first. But yeah, being more prepared than we are. We should, in a sense, almost have like this, I believe, this tension within us, this tension of I need to share this news, but also this tension of it's kind of a sense of fear of like, am I ready to do it?
Right.
I think there's a healthy tension within that. And I think if we're overconfident, being I know everything and ready to share, that's a dangerous position to be in.
Yeah.
I think there's this line that we need to teeter continuously when it comes to that. So not only be prepared, I think we need to know how to communicate well. I think that's a very difficult thing in today's world. I don't think we're prepared on methods on how to even share the good news with someone. And so learning sort of methodologies and just learning how to communicate well, I think
Which you're going to be talking about that in the next meeting on May, correct?
May 19th.
Yep.
Which is that Thursday. I'm going to give you some methods on
Mark your calendars.
on how to communicate well or communicate Christ-likeness. And
We may or may not have a bonus episode coming on the Caffeinated Christian.
yeah, it's true.
Yes.
It's true.
Yep.
So not only being prepared and learning how to communicate well, I think what is really important in today's day and age is have a relationship with the other person.
Yeah.
Yep.
Let me give you an example from myself at storage, right? I have had a lot of people come in to work that I am and just say really terrible comments about myself or the politics or the people in charge. And you want to say something back, but I don't know the person.
Right.
Right. And I'll sometimes will give my thoughts back and they're just like, nah, you don't know what you're talking about. Stuff like that. But then I'll have a few tenants who will come in, know what I do, and like to sit down for a half an hour and talk through some of these thoughts that they're having. And we just kind of throw it back and forth with each other.
And so for the listeners who might not know, when you say tenants for what?
Yeah, I own a few self-storage facilities. And a lot of the guys will come in and pay their rent and be like, hey, I heard this. This is what I was thinking. Like, can we dialogue about it for like 15 minutes? I like having conversations with you. And so I'll do that with tenants, and whether they change their mind or don't change their mind, it's a very good conversation. And that line is had when you get into a different kind of relationship with them versus them being a stranger. And so if that means at your workplace, saying hey to them every day, talking to them at lunch, that doesn't mean like going outside of work and doing everything they do. That is bad. But it means actually having a personal connection with these people. They are more willing to have this conversation. What about you, Bradley? I have some more thoughts, but I'm going to let Bradley go.
Sure. So the thing that I was going to start off with was pretty similar to what you were saying anyway, was to know your audience.
True.
And that's not even just like get to know somebody. It's just like, it's even to know somebody and how to share the gospel. Because at my job, there were people that were like a lot of my friends and a lot of the coworkers that I have like to debate. And so they will go up and present topics just to debate them. And like there will be this huge argument and stuff. So in that situation, I think like the best way to share the gospel is to not say anything at all. Even if you disagree with what they're saying, just to keep silent.
Like listen.
To listen to what they believe, and even like loud opinionated people, like they'll get all their opinions out and then they don't want to hear your opinion. They just want to like make themselves heard. But eventually, if you like get to know them enough, if you talk to them enough, they'll ask you what you believe, and that's like the time to share. And I'm not saying that that's like the same person.
Yeah.
Like you have to know your audience in the sense of how to share to each individual person.
Yeah. To what Bradley said too, it's not always good to jump on them if they're wrong.
Right.
Sometimes you just let them be wrong for the sake of finding an opportunity that's better to interject with some thoughts. Like I recently have heard arguments that are just blatantly bad, and I could spot the logical fallacy in 2 seconds. But what did I do? I did what Bradley did. I said nothing.
Right.
And just let the conversation keep going and just listened. Because I know I'm not in the position right now to have this kind of conversation with the person. So, yeah, I just kept my mouth shut when it comes to stuff.
The other thing that I would say, if I can, sharing the gospel is not necessarily telling them directly about the gospel. It's maybe showing an example. So at my job, one of the things that I like to do is to try to be very conscious of the way that I act, the way that like the type of like emotion that I send off, like and the way that I talk as well. So one thing that you can do, very practical for all the listeners, is if you are looking to how to start to share your faith, look at the way people talk, look at the way people act, and then line it up with the Bible and try and act that way. So like the first thing obviously is don't swear at work. Just, it's super simple, but it's very difficult when you are surrounded by people that like don't act the same way that you do. But then they'll notice something different about you. One of the things that I would like to do is never to get angry at work. And that's really hard at my job, which was very frustrating and very stressful. But you know, when something breaks, it's like, oh, hey, you know, it broke, whatever. Like, let's just get over it and try and laugh about it. Try and tell a joke instead.
Right.
So that was something that really helped. And one of my coworkers began to ask me like, oh, hey, how come you're never upset with stuff? Like, I've seen you angry like twice. It's like, it just brings up that conversation. Like, oh, hey, Jesus told me to, like, I have to watch my anger and I have to, and you can just begin to share the gospel like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And as you guys were talking, I immediately thought of James chapter 1, where he says, be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry. So it's really, I think, an effective evangelistic tool to really, you know, take that necessary time to hear another person's story, to hear their perspective, even if they're totally wrong.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like to remind people of is if you're engaged in a conversation with somebody who believes differently than you do, namely a coworker, and the internal things that are going on in your mind, you're immediately thinking about the next thing that you're going to say in response. You're not actually listening to them, right?
Yeah.
You're just formulating the response to what you think they're saying, but you're not actually hearing what they're saying. So I think what James is saying, be quick to listen. Actually, you know, be eager to hear somebody else's story, and that's a way in which we can actually love people. Actively praying for your coworkers is another thing, especially the people that like get under your skin. Those are the people that God is calling you the most to love. And then just not being afraid to do life with those people too, right? Like if you have an opportunity to hang out and use discernment, be wise. But if you have the opportunity to connect with those people outside of the work context and see them in real life, do that.
Yeah.
Do that.
Yeah. Joshua Chadra calls it inside out apologetics in his new books. And I kind of like what he does is he listens first. And the best way to like kind of give it in a sentence of what this means is he says, have the gospel reach them where they are, in the sense of, I'm not going to go, hey, do you think God exists? Necessarily as the first move. If they're talking about like moral topics when it comes to politics, like maybe morality is the correct way to enter into the conversation when it comes to the gospel. So you have to know your person that you're speaking to and understand what's going on inside them to read the right sort of gate or starting point to enter the conversation. Because a lot of people will just, well, do you believe Jesus rose from the dead? It's like, whoa. Like, yeah, that's really important to the good news that we find in Scripture.
You shut down that conversation.
Right. That's not necessarily the first entry point for that person. It's not necessarily the first entry point for everyone we speak to. And so we have to know what's going on in the inside of the person and how they understand reality and their worldview. And you see kind of where their worldview opens up, or they're more likely to open up within their worldview to enter that point. So it takes diligence and listening to find out exactly the position of where we should enter this conversation of the good news. And it's fine not to start with Jesus died for your sin.
Sure.
It's perfectly fine. because that's a part of the good news, right? And people, I think that goes to the podcast we just released. If all we think the gospel is that Jesus died for your sin, that's always and only going to be the starting point for people's conversations.
And unfortunately, that's what evangelism has been reduced to.
Correct.
Yeah.
And we haven't truly been evangelistic.
Correct.
Yeah.
But if the gospel includes that and so much more, I can enter these conversations on a part of the good news that's not just the death for the sin,
Right.
and work my way towards the fullness with these people. And I think we have betrayed being evangelicals with how we approach people, not understanding that nuanced grasp of the gospel.
And the greatest, to use your word, Ryan, the greatest apologetic, the greatest defense for Christianity is you living like a Christian.
Yeah.
And you saw that the movement in the early church, if you read the book of Acts, it exploded.
Oh, yeah.
And it came through preaching, absolutely. But it came because they lived a radically different lifestyle. They lived the way of Jesus. They were called the way.
Absolutely.
You know?
The followers of the way. Yep.
And well, so I work as a full-time pastor, so I get to preach every Sunday, which is awesome. I love doing that. But part of what's a part of my weekly rhythm is going to different work sites in the Western New York area and building relationships with employees on those work sites, and like kind of coming back to what you guys said, building that collateral, building that relationship, making sure that I'm listening first. And when that opportunity to speak some type of gospel truth into their situation arises and the Holy Spirit opens that up, I take it.
Yeah.
But there are more times than not, because you can't really proselytize in a work site.
Yeah.
You can't like just come out and say, hey, do you believe Jesus died for your sins? Or I'm going to tell you about Jesus.
Yeah.
It's going to shut the conversation down, and you're going to get a call from your boss.
Absolutely.
And we're not really able to do that, but there are ways that we can have those conversations, but we're allowing them to take part in it. We're not just talking to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's important.
Yeah. Sorry.
I think also an important thing to do is to have discipline in the way that you present the Christian lifestyle. So like one of the things that I always think of is I don't remember if it's a parable or if Jesus is just talking, but it's the part, I think it's in Matthew, when he's talking about how you should pray, and he's showing off. There's the one guy in the tabernacle that's like preaching like loud and very boastful, and like
It's in Luke.
it's in Luke. Thank you. This
parable.
This is why I have you here. But then there's the other guy that's like sitting there kind of quietly praying. He doesn't he's not boastful at all, and the other guy kind of like takes advantage of him. But that's
Right.
That's
Luke
goes to-
18.
but that goes to like kind of show like how do people look at Christians? Like if you're that boastful, praying out loud, like oh thank God I'm not like that person. Like that's
Right.
That's giving a bad example of how Christians look.
Yeah.
And it's not like nobody's going to come up to you and ask you like what do you believe, or like give you an opportunity to share the gospel if that's the way that you're acting. So like I even like to say like don't go and like preach like the same message that your pastor gave on Sunday to like all the people in the workplace. Just kind of quietly wait for your opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's helpful. Yeah, and coming back to what you were saying about being boastful, Bradley, I think that's one of the things that you see in Christians who are a bit like intense and overzealous, and they want to share their faith. And I think many of them do it with the right heart, but they haven't really thought about how they go about doing it, and they really haven't looked at how Jesus went about sharing the gospel, sharing the gospel of the kingdom, which when you look at Jesus, he mostly asked questions.
Yeah.
Like
100%.
that's what he usually did. And if somebody rejected his message, you know what Jesus didn't do? He didn't chase that person down. So let me give you an example. So it's in more than one gospel. I believe it's in Matthew and it's in Mark. I think it might be in Luke. But when the rich man approaches Jesus and asks him, "What must I do to inherit eternal life?" And he lists out the commandments that he's kept. And Jesus says, "But you lack one thing." He says, "Go sell everything you have and give it to the poor."
Mm-hmm.
And the rich man walked away sad because that was the one thing that was keeping him from following Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesus knew that, and he walks away. But what Jesus doesn't do is he doesn't try to chase the guy down. He doesn't try to water down the gospel for the sake of getting him on Team Jesus.
Yeah.
Like Jesus doesn't say, like, let me find a way to make this guy a disciple and let me change my message so I can get him to be a part of the club.
Right, exactly.
And that's
he doesn't change the information content of the good news in order to make it more
appealing.
Yeah, make it easier to swallow for the other person.
Yeah. And what I would say too, so I've been doing chaplain work for the last 6 years. 6 years now, I believe. Yep, since 2016. So I've done chaplain work at 4 different work sites at various times around Western New York, potentially more in the future. But one of the things that has been really helpful to me is to take the words of Jesus when he sends out the 70 in Matthew.
Yeah.
And essentially what he says, I'm going to paraphrase this. He says, "Whoever will have you, let them have you," right? If they're essentially a person of peace, if they're open to the message, share the message. Yeah. But if they're not, shake the dust off your feet and walk away. So there have been times where I've been at the workplace and there have been people that when I made even just a casual mention of my faith, even if it's just going to church on Sunday or, what happened to somebody in my congregation, if I'm met with hostility or if there's just a type of coldness and they don't want to talk to me, I don't push it.
Yeah.
I don't push it. I just go. I go on to the next person.
Yeah.
So whoever will have you, let them have you. If not, just shake the dust off your feet. Look for the person of peace. In other words, look for the person who's open to the gospel and is seeking, because God has already been at work drawing them to himself, and he's using you as a vessel to draw them closer. And so I think that's an important thing for us to
and I
consider.
think that leads to another thought that I'd like to share. And I've seen this with a lot of actually friends where they come home sort of distraught. When you share the gospel, there's like this tally that people keep, almost in the sense like, I got one, or I didn't get one, or I got one, I didn't get one. Like there's like this scale of fail, pass, fail, pass.
Your win-loss ratio.
Your win-loss ratio. And people are so discouraged when someone wants nothing to do with them. Does the person even like me? Can I have these conversations with them?
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with going, for now,
it's performance-oriented Christianity.
I'm going to put it on the back burner, have a great life with this person in the workplace, and when it's ready to be brought up again, I'll bring it up again. Like, I just see too many people come in thinking that they have failed God because the conversation with the other person doesn't want to be had.
Yeah.
And they're like, what do I do? And they're stressing about it. It's like, just stop for a second. Like, just be normal.
And God doesn't and God doesn't depend on you.
Exactly.
It's never how it's worked.
Exactly. It is.
Yeah, it's not only you sharing biblical truth into their lives.
Yeah.
Like God always has a backup, like an extra person, or he's always finding a way to show himself to everybody. It's not one vessel.
Yeah, exactly. And to give an example of that, about three years ago, shortly before my family and I came to Centerpoint, we were at our previous church at the time. I went on a medical mission trip to the Dominican with my father-in-law, and we had about like 40 to 50 people. We had some medical professionals, other people were just kind of in like the care aspect of things and administrative stuff. And then there was another group within that, missions team that was just the evangelism team. And it was 3 pastors. I was one of them. And in that week-long period, we saw 15 people come to Jesus.
Nice.
And each of us led 5 of them to Christ.
Yeah.
And this is what Paul says in Romans 3. I'm going to be preaching on it this week. The end of Romans 3, he says, "What then of our boasting?" And he's talking to Jewish believers who are, taking their ethnic and religious privilege and, entitlement that they had kind of built up, And, Paul levels the playing field for them, and he says, guess what? Without Jesus, Jews and Gentiles, they're meeting the same fate. Yeah. But with Jesus, they enter into eternity with Christ. And he says, okay, Jews, what then of your boasting? He says it's excluded, meaning God has completely and totally shut it down. You have no reason to boast whatsoever. Now, with Christians, it's easy to boast about a lot of things. And we could easily boast about, like you were saying, Ryan, that tally that we're keeping. Like, how many people did I save at the airport when I was waiting to board the flight? Or how many people did I save when I walked onto the work site and, was sharing Christ with them? We weren't concerned about that at all. Like, we realized that there were a whole bunch of people that were instrumental that God used in getting those people up to that point where they were ready to hear the gospel and receive Jesus. Those people had been discipled up to that point. So it had very little to do with me. It had everything to do with Jesus. Yeah. But I get to be a part of the work that God is doing. And I think we really need to remember that all of our feeble attempts to share our faith in the workplace, it does not rest on us. We should be prepared. We should have a solid relationship with somebody before we decide we're going to share our faith with them. Mm-hmm. We should be looking for that person of peace who's open to hearing the gospel. But we should also remember that we shouldn't put undue pressure on our shoulders, that God is going to move and God is going to work, and we just get to be conduits.
Yeah, it reminds me of when Greg Kokel was on the podcast. Mm-hmm. For listeners, he wrote the book Tactics. You can go back in our library and listen to the episode that we had him on. He says there are harvesters and there are gardeners. Mm-hmm. He goes, most Christians are gardeners. Yeah. And every Christian in the workplace wants to be a harvester. But he says the easiest part is being the harvester. The fruit's ready for you to pick. Yeah. And so we have like these famous pastors where the people, the coworkers or friends and family are doing the hard work on the ground, and then someone brings them to Sunday service and something clicks, the spirit clicks. And the family member goes like, well, why didn't that work for me? And it's like, but you might have been a gardener. Yeah. And so to think that you can't get everyone to come to church with you or to make a decision with you, that you have done no work, you have excluded the gardening category within the understanding. It's the same thing what Christ says. You're going to the disciples, you're going to reap where you did not sow. Mm-hmm. You're going to get people to come to me, and you did none of the work. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so that means that there are people who did all of the work that didn't get to reap what they sowed. And so to think that we need to always be harvesters or we failed is not biblically understanding what discipleship is when it comes to being an evangelical.
Well, and Paul even lays out this process too in 1 Corinthians. He says that, Apollos planted the seed, I watered it, God made it grow. Yeah. I might have been flipping those two around. I'm not totally sure, but the sentiment is still there. Like you're part of a process.
I think Paul planted on that.
Paul planted, Apollos watered, God made it grow, right? So that's important for us to realize that whatever work we do in sharing our faith with somebody, we are part of a process that God is working in that person's life. And I don't know if I have anything more to add to that.
No, and I think we can kind of finish in the second category I brought up. What about workplaces that you can't have these conversations?
Yeah. Well,
can I just answer that real quick? If you can't have the conversation, the easiest way to share your faith is actions speak louder than words. Yeah. Like, you don't have to vocally tell people about the gospel. Like Mike said, the early Christians, one of the big ways that people were attracted was their lifestyle was radically different. Yeah. How do you live your life compared to the non-believers around you? If it's the exact same, nobody's going to even want to have that conversation with you, even if they could. Mm-hmm. So, why would you want to share the gospel if your lifestyle doesn't match up to the gospel?
Yeah. And in the rare case that you're in a context where you can't share your faith at all, I would say this. In the workplaces that I've been in, I've had people share with me what they believe. Yeah. And what I would say sometimes, not all the time, But if the conversation veered towards discussions on religion, on faith, on worldview, after they finished up talking about their perspective, their worldview, I would ask them permission. Hey, do you mind if I share what I believe?
Yeah.
And I'm actually asking them if I can do that. And there were times where they would say, I'd rather you didn't. And I didn't.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, I respect that. But more times than not, if I am listening to them, if they genuinely see that I love them, that I care about them, that I'm consistently there. Another way to show that you love Jesus, like don't call off work for stupid reasons. Actually show up to work consistently. Yeah. Your consistent presence and your faithfulness in your workplace does a lot in showing people Jesus. But coming back to that, I've had opportunities to share Jesus with militant atheists, right? And they responded to it well. We remained friends after that conversation. Yeah. We didn't break the relationship, but I asked for that permission first. And so I think that's one of the most practical things I can give to people is if you feel the impulse and the desire to share your faith with somebody, just ask their permission. Can I share with you what I believe?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Good way to end it.
Yep. So everybody, thank you for listening to another episode of the Caffeinated Christian podcast. If you guys have suggestions on future episodes, on topics you would like us to cover, you can email us at thecaffeinatedchristian706@gmail.com. You could also find us on Facebook and Instagram at the Caffeinated Christian Podcast. We look forward to seeing you guys next time. Have a terrific day.